If hell were a place you could drive to. This is the darkest Ben 10 story I've ever conceived. I honestly debated for years whether I'd ever publish it, but my fascination with the lore I managed to build up around this world and how it has absolutely no crossover with anything outside of Man of Action, unlike even Radiant War, kept me from ever truly abandoning it. Misty had no input into this story after we tossed it aside as one of the possible premises for Radiant War, and over the years I kept returning to it and adding little by little. Olivia was the original concept for Ophelia Anderson, though their characters are vastly different on several major levels. Whether I continue this story depends largely on reception, as I'm not sure if people can really like this rather dark, morally gray version of Ben 10's world, especially one where he's literally still a kid. Rest assured, I don't think I'll ever reach Made in Abyss levels of dark, because I don't think I'm even mentally capable of achieving that sort of stuff. And the author might be a pedo, judging from some of the extra art in the manga, but I think this gave me an opportunity to explore unique types of original villains that I personally find fascinating to pit against Ben's aliens and Ben's own worldviews. Gunfire woke him up. Gunfire always woke him up, especially on Tuesdays. The gangs were out in force on Tuesdays. Why they never picked a Friday to go wild instead, Ben could only guess. Pop, 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 pop. The distant echoes cracked between the buildings like a whip as Ben's eyes creaked open to stare at the daylight gleaming through the metal shades that were bolted haphazardly to the rusted frame. Ben's eyes slid over to the dented digital clock resting on the piles of moldy blankets hanging off the side of the piles of candy bar wrappers and sumo slammer trading cards that were frayed at the edges. 6 a.m.? Seriously? Well, he was up, no changing that. Besides, if he wasn't at the assembly line in an hour, his pay would get docked. Again. Taking a deep breath, Ben kicked his blankets off his body, sitting up at a measured pace before slouching forward and glaring at the cracked mirror sitting at the foot of the old cracked wood frame and pile of beanbags that passed as a bed. A 12-year-old boy with brown hair, green vibrant eyes, and a thin starving look glared irritably back at him from the reflection. Just another day that ends in Y. Hooray, Ben muttered to his reflection, before he gingerly moved his feet over the edge of the bed. Gingerly standing up, he moved between the wood shavings, rusty nails, old chip bags, and ramen cups strewn over the floor, till he reached the bathroom, crusted with grime and mold, smacking the door open, and sidling over to the sink as he with one hand grabbed a remote off the cabinet and flipped on the TV. In other reports, Scion's Industry has not yet found the culprit involved in the theft of the molecule cutter blade prototype known among the mercenary companies as Bad Haircut. Authorities involved in the investigation suggest. Yawn. Who names a sword after a dumb haircut? Ben grunted as he grabbed a box of cereal out of the cabinet while he stuffed a toothbrush into his mouth. Ow, 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 ah. Ben tumbled over, his pants half on, his undershirt stained in old milk, a bowl of cereal clattering to the floor. The report continued on, unaware of the boy listening in, uncaring. Meanwhile, KD6 has vowed to assist Mayor Nesmith with his elite mercenary groups as long as the money continues to flow. In other news, an Enhanced has gone on a rampage recently in the 3rd District subway. 12 children ages 5 to 16 were killed in the aftermath. The Enhanced is believed to be 9 years old. Glad I wasn't there, Ben muttered as he pulled on his shirt and finally took his water and radiation-resistant jacket off the wall hook next to his garage shutter-like door. Ben looked back in the mirror. The black and green jacket that was his R&D uniform glinted with its artificial nanomesh materials. Ben adjusted his gloves, making sure they were on tight. He put them on before work. Nowadays, tetanus had become common lately, and the police were cracking down on sick people. If Ben was caught with even a sign of infection, he would spend another 12 weeks in quarantine, and that would screw his pay over. Oops! This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. Ben slid a black backpack from next to the wall. It possessed multiple green lights and various screens showing sensors and various other instruments that monitored vitals. Ben clicked a button on the side of the bag and the top slid open, allowing Ben to check the various ropes and tools inside. Nodding to himself, he slid it close and shouldered the bag, standing up and making to leave, only to stop midway. Ben froze next to the shutter door, staring at the metal for what felt like a good few minutes before turning over to the old rickety makeshift bed. Stuffing his hand between the beanbags, he shoved the box out, its cardboard old, molded, aged. Gingerly, he opened the box. A helmet with horns. Newspaper clippings of strange creatures, seemingly helping people, stopping fires, getting cats out of trees, aliens. And in the middle of this box, filled with strange souvenirs, covered in a layer of dust, as it always was was a strange dark green and black wristwatch. Its circular face held no digital watch interface or hands or any sign it ever told time. Instead, it bore a strange green hourglass-like emblem that perhaps would have at one point lit up with immense power as the device turned on, but now was dim and silent. Ben breathed quietly as he stared at the thing in the box. Ben gritted his teeth suddenly as frustration and anger creeped into his mind, and he shoved the lid close before pushing the box back into the bed. "Why do I even think about it anymore?" Ben muttered as he grabbed the handle of the shutters into his apartment and slid it upwards. "Hey, you little brat! Oh no!" Ben made to pull the shutters back down, but a large obese arm slammed his hand back as a smell of beer and body odor nearly wiped his mind off the face of the earth. Ben resisted coughing and gagging with all his might as the sweaty, shirtless, fat, balding man of a landlord glared down at him. "Been meaning to catch a twerp?" growled the man. "You are 2 days late. 2 whole days. Easy, Laz. I get paid today." Ben choked out. "Ugh, you take a shower yet?" "Yeah, I've been bathing in generosity. Each day I let you stay in this fucking palace of mine without paying me my dues," growled Laz as he jabbed a cigar into his mouth and breathed smoke into Ben's face. "If I don't see money on my desk by the end of tonight, consider yourself evicted. Comprende?" "Very much comprended," Ben said as he edged around Laz, his hands held up in case the guy decided to get any closer with his oily, sweaty skin. "I'll have it for you tonight, no later. You know I'm good for it." "You better be, kid, or I'll call the damn orphanage." As Ben stepped through the old musty hallway, he caught the eye of a girl. She wasn't a girl Ben had ever seen in the complex before, especially given she looked around his age. Her hair was sandy blonde and tied into 2 twin tails, and she wore a high-collar leather crop top and set of pants with bandages wrapped around her arms, legs, and stomach. A tech blade, which was a tactical-looking custom-forged katana, was sheathed to her back, which nearly stunned Ben, as kids weren't normally seen packing that sort of iron unless they had rich parents in the mayor's office. And this girl wasn't dressed like she had rich parents. Oops. This image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image. The girl caught Ben's eye and grinned, revealing pointed teeth, almost like a cat, her silver eyes flashing. "Hey, sup? The landlord bothering ya? Like, every day. I'm used to it, though," said Ben. "You new here?" "Nah, I don't live here. I'm just scoping out the place for stuff," the girl said, shrugging. "What you doing going out without mom and dad green eyes?" "Don't have 'em," said Ben simply. "Oh," said the girl, blinking nonchalantly. Fair enough. Me neither. What's your name, Green Eyes?" "Why you want to know?" Ben asked, narrowing his eyes suspiciously. "'Cause I like your eyes. Not a lot of green out there nowadays," said the girl, grinning widdly with her shark-like teeth. Hey, by the way, I wouldn't head out the front just now. A few members of the Red Lords are hanging in the parking lot. Wouldn't want you to be filled with bullet holes like the last resident who went out that way." "Jeez," Ben muttered. "Who was it this time?" "Some guy with a weird red shirt and an AC/DC hoodie, I think," said the girl. "You know him? His blood's just all over the place right now." "Aw, man, that's Fred. He was nice to me. Gave me some of his food," sometimes Ben groaned. "Ah, well, thanks for the heads up. I'm heading out back. By the way, what are you doing with that tech blade? Did you steal it from some adult?" "Tisk, this blade's mine, kiddo. I'm an enhanced merc, and I'm gonna run this city," said the girl, grinning smugly as she jabbed a thumb at the handle of her blade protruding from her back. "I'm here on a job. Gonna kill a guy, you know." Ben blinked boredly for a few moments. "Heh, sure you are," Ben grunted as he headed out the back door. The girl stared at the back door as it shut. For a moment, she merely glared at Ben's visible retreating back through the door's window. "Asshole," the girl muttered to herself as she walked off towards the stairs. Ben stepped out into the morning breeze, filled with the smell of motor oil, cigars, and 5-day-old pizza. Buildings that looked like they were a ton of metal boxes and warehouses stapled together surrounded the cracked and poorly maintained roads, as delivery bots sputtered and sprayed black smoke-colored pollution all over the sky. Like clockwork, Ben trudged past a few men and women, grumbling to each other, a few of them possessing metal arms or metallic faces, and climbed on the automated bus that stopped every few hours at the back way of the apartment complex. The bus was probably futuristic looking at one point, with its sleek-shaped lights, windows, and slender silver surface, but it had been spray-painted with graphite and obscene images inside and out, thanks to its automated driverless state making it far less immune to vandalism than the driven variety. As Ben stepped inside the bus, he came upon an old man, probably in his 70s, crying and curled on the ground as a few men, with red skulls painted on their faces, kicked him relentlessly, laughing. "Help me," The old man sobbed, looking desperately at Ben, as if he expected a kid to be able to do any more than he could. Ha ha ha, keep whining, old man, it makes my ears sing, yelled one of the Red Lord's gang members. Ben felt his face burn as he twitched a finger over his left wrist. But of course, there was nothing there but a normal watch. Ben sat quietly down at the front seat of the bus, watching the black box that sat in place of a driver's seat make a few boops and clicks before the vehicle continued on its way. When the bus reached Ben's destination, the gang members had long left on a previous stop, and the old man lay bleeding out on the bus, his eyes open and glassy. Well, anywhere but this city was a better place. Maybe this was a good thing. Ben tried hard not to look at the corpse on his way out, as he found himself stepping out among crowds of people. Men, children, women, all of them wore similar clothes to Ben. A protective black and green nanomesh jacket and a pair of similar gloves. Some of them wore protective headwear and gas masks. A few kids just slightly older than Ben pushed past him, wearing the same uniform, one of them holding an infant child in a bundle, blankets on which they had haphazardly fitted a similar mask. And all of them were headed to the same place. The massive logo Scions Industries blazed down with its neon lights, its huge surface nearly covering the entire bottom of the giant skyscraper that towered into the sky till it nearly touched the twitching static, indicating the dome-like energy shield that surrounded the entirety of the City of Sin. Ben had to shield his eyes as he made his way under the logo through the massive gateway and towards the lines going through various toll booths just beyond the entrance. Ben found himself nearly crushed as adults shoved him through one of the lines, all of them far more interested in their own business than one measly kid. Ben had to be careful here. One newbie he trained a few weeks ago had died after being trampled by the clock and rush. Somehow, Ben avoided the stampede of legs by taking refuge with a few groups of kids in the line, and made it to the large booth where a robot, made of multiple spindly clawed arms with various camera lenses for eyes, appraised him. Scanning, the bot said in its low metallic voice. Benjamin Kirby Tennyson, the boss has noted several errors in the materials provided on line B. For this you are issued 5 demerits. Your pay has been reduced by 12%. Of course, Ben muttered. Nothing new. Screw you too. School starts in 10 minutes. Clock in, report to class, and then resume your work, said the bot as Ben took out a large metal chip with his name printed on it and slotted it into a nearby machine next to the Mac. Yeah, whatever, Ben said. What are you, my nanny? Watch your tone, human. The bot seemed to growl, in spite of it having no emotional tone in its voice. Well, somebody programmed you with sass, Ben muttered under his breath. Hey, Ben! Ben looked up as he made it, through the clock-in booth and into the factory proper, sparks and the sounds of moving machines assaulting his senses. 2 familiar faces made their way to Ben, removing their protective masks as they grinned in spite of their surroundings. Ben grinned back. It was weird how these guys spent most of his childhood bullying him, but after the calamity, things changed so drastically you wouldn't be able to tell what their relationship was before. Cash, JT, what you guys up to? Class is like, in 10 minutes, if that bucket of bolts is telling the truth, I am incapable of falsehood, the robot began. Yeah, zip it. A taller, lankier boy with tan skin glared at the robot before grinning back at Ben. Nah, we were waiting for you, bruh. I think me and JT convinced the boss to give the entirety of Section D a few days off. Paid leave? Ben asked breathlessly, hardly daring to believe it. Nah, I wish. JT, the shorter, pastier boy with red hair and glasses, shrugged. More like the promise that if we leave and don't clock in for 3 days, we won't be fired. So, like 3 free Memorial Days. Still a freaking miracle in my book. Ben grinned as he high-fived his 2 friends. We're thinking of going to see Metal Motor's big city tour. Maybe even book a few rooms in the deluxe family suite for the entire crew, said Cash. Dude, Motor's latest song's gonna blow all Sin records for sure. I don't know, guys. I got another demerit, Ben said as he rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Again? Geez, the boss really has it out for you, JT said. Yeah, and my landlord hiked up my rent again, said Ben. If I'm gonna make enough dough to survive the next month, I need to put in the hours. Ben, if you need to, I don't know, crash at one of our places, then, Cash began. No, you already gotta take care of your mom. I've got this, Ben said. Whatever you say, man, but if you get kicked out, you ain't getting a chance to argue, said Cash. Oh, dude, by the way, did you hear? The Bellwood Library got torn down yesterday. Ben went quiet for a moment, his heart sinking. What? You're kidding me, bro, said JT, looking shocked as well. That's like The last of old Bellwood from before 2 years ago? Well, yeah, said Cash. I always figured it would happen eventually, but guess our old city of sin ain't Bellwood anymore. It's officially an entirely different place. As if we needed the library going to tell us that. My grandma's avoided at least 8 car bombs in the last week. I think she might be immortal, said JT. Come on, Ben said quietly. Let's head to class. The school classroom district of the Sion's Industry building was as simple as you could get. Old dusty rooms with desks that had been cluttered together from Bellwood High before it got demolished, all facing meticulously cleaned whiteboards and managed by teachers who were paid far too little to spew far too much propaganda. 20 minutes into the required half-hour school lesson, Ben was already almost asleep as the teacher droned on. And that is how Sion's Industries built the sanctuary cities in spite of the vast attacks. Benjamin. Huh? Ben jolted upwards in his desk. Are you with us, Tennyson? The droning woman adjusted her glasses as she stared nonchalantly at Ben. This will be on the test, and demerits will be issued based on your grades. Sure, Teach, my ears are wide open. Then I'm sure you can tell us the origins of Sion City, Ben sighed. Everyone knows that the city of sin, Sion City, right, whatever you corpus want to call it, Ben said as he heard several other kids snigger. Sion City was formed when Bellwood was split in half following the collapse 2 years ago. As all the cities turned into quarantine zones against the big monsters outside, your big old Sion Corporation used a ton of New Age tech to turn every city, including this half of Bellwood, into an isolated prison. Tennyson, the teacher muttered, her eyes flashing in warning in spite of her unchanged tone. Sanctuary. I was gonna say sanctuary, Ben said. Very well, long as you know it, I suppose. The teacher droned. All right. As I was saying, following the first attempts by Providence to colonize and of course Ben zoned out for the last of those mandatory 30 minutes. After class, it was time for work. Below the factory was the area where the most children worked, tadenite extraction, a material that was discovered by Sion's Industry to the point that it monopolized the technique of utilizing and taking it. It was the lifeblood of sanctuary zones, of the city of sin, the source of cybernetics and enhanced. The hardest material known to man. So hard, in fact, that you needed precise tools designed to hit things with certain vibrations to chip it from the various veins. The city of sin was a strategic place compared to most other cities, as it was right above one of the largest tadenite veins in existence, with the highest rate of regrowth, meaning it replenished itself at higher rates than other veins, allowing the city to basically sustain itself, or rather, the company to sustain itself, long as it had the right crew to extract it. In this case, the right crew was the most disposable, meaning kids ranging from 5 to 14. Most kids didn't last more than a month or a couple of weeks before perishing or becoming too injured to continue, and that meant at 2 years of employment, Ben was considered a senior and responsible for most of the crew. The entrance to the mine consisted of a large square hole in the middle of the metallic basement of the company building, where multiple pulley systems attached to harnesses lowered the workers into the vein, which was a straight drop into the heart of the central crystal that grew most of the tadenite substance. Ben would strap in, check his safety harnesses, don his green and black gas mask, hood and protective harness, and the technicians would lower him in along with the rest of his team. Today was particularly dangerous, however. The crystals were currently experiencing what Ben personally called diamond head growth, meaning the crystals were growing so fast they could be seen extending spires in real time, which presented a ton of complications to the equipment meant to keep them all alive. Ben could feel sweat fogging up the inside of his mask as he held up his high-tech vibro axe, using the humming metal pick to jab at one of the crystals jutting from the bright luminous walls of the mine, letting its shards drop into the collection box on his belt. As he worked, dangling hundreds, probably 1,000 feet above the deep, dark, fathomless bottom of the pit, he looked up for a bit at the other kids dangling next to the walls around the mine, the sounds of picks, all chiming harmoniously. Nearby, a crystal slowly cracked out of a wall and grew outwards like a tortoise lazily peeking its head out of its shell. Crap, they're getting faster, Ben muttered. Hey, Bill, I think we should pull out, take a break, wait for the growth period to subside. Nah, man. Another worker about 2 years, older than Ben, yelled out from below. Boss is already frustrated. About the rate we're going today, we slow down even a bit. Schleek. Bill froze as he saw a crystal beginning to grow in a wall just above him, pointing and extending into his metal cable. Oh, shit, Bill yelled. Bill, hold on! Ben rapidly cranked on the pulley attached to his belt, trying to lower himself down to Bill's level, as fast as he could hold on. Buddy, I'm... Schleek! The crystal pieced the metal cable as easily as butter, and Bill didn't even have time to say anything as he fell screaming down into the dark abyss below, perhaps adding to the 100 or so decaying corpses that lay at its bottom. Ben cursed so hard his cousin would have probably smacked him upside the head. It wasn't the first time, nor would it be the last, but it still hurt to watch, every damn time. JT sighed as he cranked his pulley up so that he was level with Ben. I'll get the paperwork. Again, yeah, you do that, Ben mumbled as he continued to chip away at a few crystals on the wall. 7 grueling hours was all Ben could manage that night. He spent several hours in the HR office writing letters to any family he could dig up for Bill, which wasn't much, but he didn't really know how to do anything else other than Google. Not like Bellwood Elementary ever taught people finding. When he finally clocked out, it was with a heavy heart, but also a sense of relief that he could finally stop thinking about who was going to fall next. As he made his way home, he found the front door to the back parking lot quiet, a nice surprise. Usually a few of the Red Lords lurked next to the door and laughed and taunted him as he passed through. He was a kid, so of course they'd use him as verbal fodder. What was he going to do about it? Call the cops? What would they do besides? Maybe raze the entire neighborhood to the ground? Although Ben's nice surprise soon had a rather jarring explanation. As soon as Ben opened the door, the smell of blood gusted past him, and he found himself looking down at a dead gangster, his face frozen in shock as he lay with his cheek pressed to the floor, a long red katana with a high-tech hilt sticking out of his back. The girl who claimed to be a merc stood above him, her foot on the corpse's back as she smirked down at her prey, a bit of blood on her cheek, as if proud of her handiwork. She looked up at Ben, as if suddenly noticing him, and grinned with her sharp teeth, but it wasn't aggressive. Rather, it was amused, if anything. We meet again, Green Eyes. Sorry about the mess. Name's Olivia, by the way. The girl's sharp teeth gleamed happily like a shark at the dentist as she held out a hand. Nice to make your acquaintance.